Hello, everybody. Walk with me home from my bus stop while I answer my third CCR question. How did your product's production skills develop throughout this project? Now, personally, I think I've grown a lot throughout this whole experience, but obviously I can't just leave the video at that, so let's get right into it. Quick warning, there was a lot of noise today, so this will be a voiceover. I would like to start by covering each step of my process, the first one being selecting my group members. Now, I won't lie to you and say I didn't immediately run to the closest friends I had, but I also won't say I hated my decision. I do think that who I chose helped me, but also hindered my experience just a tad, as one of our members had left just before filming, which made us do a total overhaul of the whole film. The next big part of the movie making process were some of my own personal realizations about the filming process. At first, I thought that this would be just like about any other video I filmed, where I just talk into a camera, but I was sorely mistaken. The part I was really shocked about was how in-depth our storyboards ended up being, as we had positions, lighting, dialogue, and even more all planned out before we even got to filming. Another thing that surprised me was definitely the amount of effort put into editing that was done by Diego, our editor. He spent large amounts of time just working on a scene or two to make it look perfect. Now let's actually get to the steps of making the movie. The first thing we had to do was sit down with each other and figure out what genres we wanted to make our film about, and how we'd fit into their conventions. We had ended up picking psychological thriller, comedy, and drama, though we had to drop comedy to horror, as we couldn't fit it in properly or without straying away from our original vision. Once we had a base to go off of, we had to start making some big decisions, mainly where we would film and who would be doing what. We ended up deciding that me and Anthony would be actors, while Diego would be the editor and scriptwriter, as he was the most reliable when it really came down to it. Our third teammate, who would have taken one of those jobs and even acted, left, so once again we had to readjust. Once we knew who would be doing what and had a decent enough script written, we could focus on our storyboard in which everyone participated. Now, the storyboard itself wasn't overly complicated, just a lot of work and a lot of detail. The biggest struggle would probably have to be consistency among teammates, as we worked independently. When one of us would move the scene into one direction, the others would change it up into something just different enough that we would have to recalibrate. Not to mention, sometimes the wording we used would be hard to follow for one another. For example, when one of us would describe the mise en scène of a scene, which is the general composition of the scene, it would be in a way that could mess everyone up and set up a whole different vibe than originally planned. Now, when making decisions about the film, with our group, we didn't have a specific process, but we had our way of handling it. A lot of the time, we would just do a solid vote or explain our reasoning behind each option until we had a majority to win over a minority. There weren't any big disputes or disagreements either, which was one of our biggest advantages as a group, a large understanding and agreeability with one another. In the end, we did end up making a movie filming fitting each of our desires. When it came to picking a location, we knew we would be doing it at one of our homes, as we needed a nice space with not a lot of people to interrupt the filming. However, we didn't know who would be chosen. Our criteria wasn't too specific, it mainly just consisted of us uh, choosing who would, oh freak. It mainly just consisted of us choosing who had an interior fitting the vibe we wanted, that being something nice and dark with slight lighting to make the movie feel more serious. Casting was also quite easy, as me and Anthony volunteered immediately, and Diego did not wish to participate in filming, so he gladly took the role of the editor and scriptwriter. As for my involvement with the film, I don't think I did too much other than play my part as best I could, and even make suggestions here and there, although I do think I learned a lot from participating in this project. Overall, I learned a lot about teamwork and collaboration, along with a much better understanding of the film industry. Once we had finally finished our rough draft of the film, it was time to see the criticisms people had, and it was rough. We had to completely revamp our script and clothing for my character, but we took it all nicely, although I was salty that we had to redo everything because of our teammate leaving. Luckily, remaking the film wasn't that crazy of a challenge, as the new script was much better, being both shorter and more efficient. The clothing change added a lot to the mise en scène, and I would say even our acting improved a bit. One particularly fun part was making the logos and credits for the film, as it was an easy yet expressive step. I contributed a lot into what the idea of one of the logos would be, that being the Spade corporate one, and Diego mainly did the credits as he had a really pretty video of a car ride during a sunset, which we thought fit the movie. In the end, I think this project helped me learn a lot about who I should work with, how I work with others, and even helped me understand the creative process of a film, or even other mediums of art, although in a less specific manner. Well, I'm now almost home, so I will see you all next time.